Hello everyone, I am Bets Golden. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm actually back here today with the Woodland Story series by Little Birdie. And I wanted to show you just some unique stuff about this paper and this product line. At first glance, it looks like every kind of scrapbooking product line out there, but this is a little bit different. It is a mixed media, so they have bridged mixed media and scrapbooking over, and this is a picture that I've decided to use because this is a bird theme type paper. This is the stencil that they sent me, and then I'm going to be playing with the mixed media paste first, and we're going to do it two ways. We're going to use it as gesso and also as modeling paste, and the stencil is also from them. And then I have this layout that I'm going to do with this picture, and then I am going to do this layout with this picture. So with this one, I'm going to be using this as a gesso, and with this one, I'm going to be using it as a modeling paste. So what makes this super unique, this paper, is the back is coated, and it really, really lends itself well to wet mediums. It won't buckle as bad as, say, your regular scrapbooking paper. First thing I did was I sprayed the back side of the stencil with some pixie spray, and I'm just going to center this up on my 12 by 12 layout first. I am not going to be spreading the paste all over this in the entirety. I think I might do it a little bit off center like this. So I'm just going to take and smoosh this down to make sure I have nice adhesion. And then once that is on there really well, it's not going to move anywhere because I don't want my modeling paste leaking underneath and seeping. Just going to go ahead. This did have a protective coating over it. However, I went ahead and just removed that protective coating. And I'm just going to take, and it's super thick. This is the first time I have ever played with this. So let's just see how this works. Again, I am not going to go to the edges because I don't want that hard line. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this in some random spots. It's going to have to dry, of course. And with the wonderful ability of television or YouTube, you don't have to watch it dry. So that's exciting. It's really thick, really, really thick. I like the consistency of it. Now, with something like this, you definitely are going to want to make sure that you rinse this right after you use it, the stencil, because when it hardens as a modeling paste, it's going to be obviously permanent. And I think that that's about as good as I'm going to do it. So I'm going to go ahead, just remove some of this excess off like so. I like to save as much as my product as I can. All right. And then let's go ahead and just take this off and set it aside to dry. Voila. So that's pretty cool looking. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and move on to the gessoing. This is my next page I want to work on, and I want to actually use it as gesso on this, and I have a couple ideas on how to do that. You can go ahead and, like I said, I haven't played with this before, so this is the first time for me. So I could go ahead and mix some water in a separate container as to not create gesso with it, but I think what I'm going to do is I am going to pop some down just like this, and then I'm going to take my distress sprayer that's full of water and just go ahead from there and mix that in and spread it out. Now, I don't have necessarily, I don't want this to be perfect or anything like that. I just want to use it as a gesso. So I'm just going to spread it out, and it should act as a gesso, and that's a little bit watery, so I'm going to add a little bit more in. Pick up a little bit more of that. And then what's cool about this is you really get the texture you want of your gesso when you can control how much water is put in. So I really do appreciate that. I like that value. Like if I want it really covered, I can make it a little thicker. If I want it more of a wash, I can add a little bit more water to it, and so on and so forth. All right, so I think that that's all I want to use of that. So I'm going to maneuver my paper around here and just kind of play with it. I want to get different streaks in. I bet you could even use some colored sprays. They have these really great sprays that you could mix in to make it a color type gessoed surface. And I think I want to actually utilize a brush right now on this, just because I want there to be some brush lines to it. And I'm gonna see how that does. And again, I'm going to make sure that I really wipe everything down as I'm done using it. So I'm gonna take just this brush and just, yeah, I'm gonna add some water. There we go. And I'm gonna do like a wash. Definitely going on like gesso. The beauty of gesso is when you apply gesso, it preps your surface for other mediums. So I don't want this necessarily to be all the same white. I want some spots to be a little bit transparent, and so on and so forth. I want some spots to be a little bit thicker, so on and so forth. And so what that does is it allows the ink and things that I'm going to use on over it to just apply different. It'll be more vibrant in the spots that you do have your gesso prime surfaces, and then it will be less vibrant in the areas that you do not. So I'm trying to just get a full coverage on this. And again, I have not played with this. This is the first time. I wanted this to be an authentic experience for you guys. I don't like, sometimes I think it's good to see a creator's first time use of something, and so that's what I'm doing with this. So I really want to just take and thin this out. The lines are not as blended as I want, and pretty easy to do with a brush and some water. Just want to blend out those edges some. And you see how well this paper is holding up with the water? That's the beauty of a mixed media paper, is it does hold up quite nicely. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a baby wipe, and I'm going to start to remove a little bit of that, rub some of that off. I have a wipe right here, and I'm just going to wipe off that as well. And along the base, I really want those flowers to be a little bit more visible, so I'm just going to wipe some of that gesso up like so. So I just want the flowers to be more seen. And I like that. Then I'm going to take my brush and just kind of brush it through a little bit. I really like the brush strokes in this. So again, putting that on up, and then I'm going to go along the edges and just kind of do the same along there. Alright, I think I like that. I like how that all turned out. So we're going to go ahead and let this dry. And again, this is super saturated right now. And the paper held up really nicely. And you'll even be able to see more of that as it dries. That first one that we did, and it's pretty dry. I did take my little heat gun to it. Not my embossing gun, but my little heat gun to it and kind of help finish it off. I think that this has been sitting here for maybe 10 minutes. And I'm going to show you what this looks like with some color splash on it. This is their lime splash and this is their gold rush. So I'm going to spray this on here. I'm going to do the gold on this one, and then I wanted to show you their prime chipboard. This is really unique because this is what the chipboard looks like regularly. And as you can tell, it looks like chipboard, but they already have it primed with gesso, so it's totally ready to take color. So I'm going to be utilizing the lime on that chipboard. So for this, you're going to want to shake up your color sprays really well before you spritz them. And the necks on these can be a little bit loose and messy, so keep that in mind. You might want to have something next to you to wipe up with. And I just like to go over in that kind of fashion and just get a couple spritz down, and it really is really pretty. I love how that looks, and that's about all I'm going to do with that. If you want to make the color less intense, you can actually go and spritz some water on it as well. So like, let's say that I wanted to lift some of the color up there, I could just spritz some water on it and it will cause it to be not so vibrant. And then you could even dab a paper towel or something on it to lift that color up even more until you get it to your liking. But I kind of want it a little bit vibrant, so we're going to leave that. Now I'm going to set this aside to dry, and again, you can use a heat gun on it or you can let it dry naturally. And let's go ahead and use our primed chipboard for this next one. So I'm just going to set that down right there. And I'm going to use my lime splash on this. So I'm just shaking that up, and then boom, there we go. Really nice coverage on that. So I'm going to just pick this up. Can't be afraid to get your fingers dirty. And I think I'm going to go ahead and just heat set that a little bit so you can kind of see what that is going to look like as it dries. Some of it does absorb the vibrancy does lessen as it dries. And you can just go through and just layer on more color if you would like it to have a little bit more intensity. So I'm going to go ahead and just layer on some more color on this. And then again, and you can even flip it over and pick up some of that excess that is there too. And it almost dries to like a chalky type finish. And I'm going to do just a little spritz of the gold rush on this end. So I'm just going to hold it like that. And just that little spritz. And then I will set that for you. And we'll move on to the gesso paper. So it dries really rather quickly. and the results are quite lovely. Now, you do need to keep in mind your color family when you're working with any kind of color washes, because when you mix a warm and a cool tone together, you will end up with brown. So just keep that in mind as you do your projects. All right, let's move on to this. So for this one, I'm actually going to go ahead and layer both of these colors on. I'm going to heat set between each layer as to avoid kind of that mix of brownie mud. It's almost like a mud is what it ends up being. So, and for this one, I want to lighten it, so I'm just going to spray some water. I really love that effect. And then I'm going to heat set this. Pretty well set. So I'm going to go over with this beautiful lime in some of the areas, like right there. There's some white, there's some white, and just kind of spritz it on through. And then I do want to loosen that color up a little bit and get it to move. So I'm going to apply some water just to make it more of a watercolory type effect. Now remember, this paper is that mixed media paper, so it really is holding up nicely. I'm not having any problem with it really buckling. I am loving how this is looking. Now remember, this was a piece of pattern paper and you're not seeing much of that because I white gesso the entire thing. I used this paste as the gesso. So if you want your pattern to still shine through, you just are not going to gesso it, or you're going to gesso it and add more water and make it a little bit more translucent. Now from here, I do want to add some I want to finish this off with some definite sprays where you can definitely see the spray. So I'm going to go through and just add a couple spritz like that. And then I'm going to do the same. And now I'm good. And this page is going to be ready for me to complete. I love this paper with mixed media. I hope that you enjoyed this and it gave you a little bit more information on Little Birdie. Make sure you head over to our hop that we have going on. A whole bunch of designers are doing a fabulous hop. We each have different lines from Little Birdie, and we're going to showcase some different projects and layouts we have created with this. I will have my hop link provided down below as of April 20th because that's when it is. I really hope you hop through and you find some inspiration. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below and I will do my best to try to get answers if I don't know. I will definitely, look into it for you. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Also share it with someone you think would be interested in mixed media and scrapbooking. And if you haven't subscribed, I certainly hope you do so. Until next time, I'm Bets Golden. Oh, and go over to my blog on the 20th to see how I finish off these pages. Sorry, guys. Until next time, I'm Bets Golden. Happy crafting.